Imagine checking your savings account and seeing $42. 42. And for a moment you think, why even bother? Maybe it feels familiar, that mix of frustration and helplessness. But here's the thing. That struggle isn't about your discipline, your income, or your luck. It's about something most people completely miss. And once you understand it, the whole game changes. Because here's what's really strange. Mathematically, getting from zero to $1,000 is tiny compared to going from 1,000 to 10,000. But psychologically, behaviorally, that first $1,000 feels 20 times harder. And nobody explains why until now. So let's fix that today. Imagine someone named Marcus. He's 26, lives in Columbus, Ohio, makes about $52,000 a year, splits rent with a roommate, has a car payment, a couple of streaming subscriptions, student loans on income-based repayment. Normal life. Not extravagant, not reckless, just living. Marcus has tried to save before. He tells himself he'll put away $200 a month. By week 3, something comes up. A car registration he forgot about, a birthday dinner he didn't want to skip, a medical copay. The $200 disappears, and now he's back to zero. And the worst part, he feels like he failed, like something is wrong with him. Nothing is wrong with Marcus, and nothing is wrong with you if that story sounds familiar. Here's what's actually happening, and this is the part most people completely miss. When you have zero saved, every single dollar you earn is spoken for before it arrives. Your brain, operating on what psychologists call temporal discounting, defaults to prioritizing right now over later. Not because you're weak, because that's the design. We are wired to value immediate rewards over future ones. A dollar today genuinely feels worth more than a dollar in 6 months. This isn't a character flaw, it's neuroscience. And on top of that, there's something called self-efficacy, your internal belief that your actions will actually produce results. When you've tried to save before and it hasn't worked, your self-efficacy around saving drops. And when your brain doesn't believe something will work, it stops prioritizing it. So you spend, and then you feel bad, and the cycle repeats. The first $1,000 is hard not because of the math, it's hard because of this loop. But here's where it gets interesting. Once you cross that threshold, once you actually have $1,000 sitting in a savings account, something shifts. And it's not just emotional, though it is that too. It's structural. That $1,000 starts doing two things simultaneously. First, it becomes a behavioral buffer. When the car registration shows up, you don't have to drain next month's grocery budget. You handle it and you move on. That stability, even at a small scale, reduces the financial anxiety that was quietly draining your decision-making energy every single day. Second, and this is the psychological piece that almost nobody talks about, you start experiencing what researchers sometimes call the house money effect. Once you have something saved, you begin to mentally separate that money from your spending money. It lives in a different category in your brain, and because of that, you become less likely to touch it and more likely to add to it. The first $1,000 is the prototype. The next $10,000 is just running the same program at a higher volume. I've definitely done this myself, tried to save in big dramatic chunks and wondered why it never stuck. The truth is, behavior shapes itself in small loops, not giant leaps. So what are the most common mistakes people make right here? The biggest one is waiting until the end of the month to save whatever's left. There's almost never anything left. The money finds a way to be used. Automating even a small transfer on payday, $30, $50, whatever is actually realistic for your situation, removes the decision entirely. You don't negotiate with yourself. It just moves. The second mistake is not giving the money a dedicated home. Saving into your regular checking account doesn't work well psychologically. A separate high-yield savings account, something like Marcus Invest, Ally, SoFi, or a credit union savings account, creates a visual and psychological separation. Out of sight genuinely means out of mind, and that's a feature, not a bug. The third mistake, quitting after one setback. Missing a month doesn't erase your progress. A broken streak is not a broken system. Now, here's something few people realize about the actual numbers. Going from 1,000 to 10,000 feels completely different because your savings itself starts generating small returns. Your habits are already formed, and your financial confidence, your self-efficacy, is rebuilt. You're no longer starting from scratch emotionally every time. The $1,000 isn't just money, it's proof. Proof that you can do this, and proof changes behavior more than advice ever will. From 10,000 to 50,000, now you're potentially entering territory where index funds, compound growth, and time start doing a meaningful portion of the work. But none of that is accessible until the first $1,000 exists. Everything downstream depends on that one unglamorous, difficult, deeply important milestone. Before we go further, a quick note, and I want to say this clearly because I think it matters. I'm not a licensed financial advisor, and nothing in this video is personalized financial advice. Everyone's situation is different. If you're dealing with high-interest debt, job instability, or any financial complexity, talking to a certified financial planner is genuinely worth considering. What I share here is educational. You make the decisions for your own life. Now, let's talk about risk, because it's real and it deserves honesty. If and when you move beyond an emergency fund into investing, markets fluctuate. Some years are down. Inflation can erode purchasing power. Behavior risk, meaning your own emotional reactions to seeing your balance drop, is one of the most underestimated threats to long-term financial health. Panic selling during a downturn or chasing performance after a rally tends to produce worse outcomes than simply staying consistent. Awareness of that pattern is genuinely protective. Building the habit of saving first trains your brain to be less reactive to financial noise over time. That's not nothing. That might be everything. Here's the emotional flip I want to leave you with. Every dollar you spend impulsively is a vote for your current situation. Every dollar you save, even a small, quiet, unimpressive dollar, is a vote for a different one. You don't need a windfall. You don't need a perfect month. You need one small, consistent action repeated until it becomes invisible, until it just becomes how you operate. Marcus, by the way, he started with $50 a month, automated, separate account. He didn't tell anyone. 6 months later, he had $300. A year later, almost $800. And something in him had quietly changed, not because of the money itself, because of what it proved about him. The first $1,000 is the hardest thing you'll do in personal finance, and also, somehow, the most important. If this gave you something useful today, a new way to think about it, a small push you needed, share it with someone who might need to hear it too. And if you want more content like this, built around real psychology and real numbers, subscribing takes 1 second and genuinely helps this channel keep going. You've got this. Seriously.